morning, everybody. What a great day, hey? The sun came up and the clouds dissipated just for us to be out there on enjoying nature, and we will get out there soon. I just wanted to start off. I'm gonna have the collective, some of us and my friends Paul and Pedro speak, but I just wanted to maybe introduce a bit about what the International Indigenous Collective is. And as Janet said, maybe start here a bit. The work that we're doing here and the work that all of you, the reason that you're here is because you support this work. You believe it in some form or another. You believe that this is what we're doing in education, is supporting Indigenous students to bring forward kind of their lived experiences. And as we said yesterday, some of that has been impacted and lost, but it's, as I think Joe Thorne said, it's still in here. It's still in us. And so we in education then, I believe it's our responsibility to bring that out in these students, to support them in their path. And I think that, as Uncle Gary says, the ancestors have laid the path out before us, and then it's up to us to follow that path, that role and responsibility and respect. And those are those words I want to kind of speak to you to think about today. Your role, your responsibility, and how you show respect for who you are, first and foremost, but then how you give respect and responsibility. And I think, again, what Janet has shown us is that Indigenous knowledge, Indigenous theory, Indigenous methodology, Western language makes us break those pieces up. But from Indigenous perspective, as Janet has showed us, they're very connected. They're all connected, right? Indigenous ways of knowing and being are like this, right? And it's that relationship, that inner spirit, that inner journey to figure out who we are. And Uncle Gary says our good Shapwallowing, I think, if I'm saying that correctly. And so that we're in relationship with all these things. And so our role and responsibility is to show respect to all these different things, that the trees have spirit. Auntie Florence teaches me that the trees have spirit, the air has spirit, the birds have spirit, everything has spirit, everything has life, everything has energy. And our role as Indigenous people is to show respect to those things by being in relationship. This morning I got up and I went outside and I went for a run. And my way of showing respect is to get up and give thanks. As I'm running, I'm thanking the birds, and I'm thanking that I hear, and I'm thanking the insects that I see, and I'm thanking the sun for rising, and I'm thanking my ancestors for bringing me here. I'm thanking them for this life, for this existence. And for me, what I'm realizing is that I have to practice that. It's not something, I have taken that for granted. But in order to be, again, to show respect, to have responsibility to this, I have to enact that every day. And I'm not saying that I do that every day. I'm learning and I'm trying to be that. Because when I do make those connections, I do feel more balanced, as Janet said. I do feel like I'm walking in a good way on this earth, and then more open to those connections that are open to me. And so that is a big piece of working with Indigenous knowledge in the Academy. And I think why I'm such a fan of Portfolio is because, as Janet said, it both brings out that, as Indigenous people, that kind of knowledge that we take for granted or we don't know that we had, or that process that we have to discover that piece. But it also provides this kind of concrete tool that the institution likes, right? It's written down here, this is what we have. These are our competencies that we can prove who we are and what we know. And so I like that because, as Janet said, it's about walking in two worlds and demonstrating that and showing respect. Again, because the Western world is now part of this for us, right? And so it's showing respect to all those different layers. So in the Academy, as in the institution that we all in different forms are a part of, we're throwing around words like indigenization and reconciliation. And so again, I want us to think about how we show respect to what those terms mean, beyond this symbolic, throwing them around, but really to consider, what do those words mean for each of us? And again, I think they will mean different things to different people based on our lived experiences. And so what we're inviting you here, and again for this time, is to think of that and to think about how we can continue to deepen our role and our responsibility in showing respect to this way of being, to this way, so that we can then in turn support our Indigenous learners, that they can have some equity in in this world. Uncle Gary, recently I was talking to him and he said, tell me what you mean about this when you say indigenization. So I explained, in the Western way and kind of within what I believe to be indigenization. And he said, well, I said, what do you think? And he said, well, my concern, he said, is what are you going to do with it, right? And so as Janet is saying, as we're bringing in Indigenous knowledge into the institution, what are we going to do with it? What are we going to do for these learners who are standing up so bravely, sharing their history, trying to figure out who they are? And how amazing for us to witness that. This place, in institution, academia, university, has been a place of history, education overall, as a tool for assimilation. But yet, Morgan is standing up saying, I'm finding my voice in this place. Like, how amazing, like, what a contradiction, but what an honor. And so, again, what is our role? What is our responsibility in showing respect to someone who's telling and saying her story? And it can't be just that symbolic, thank you for sharing your story. The Truth and Reconciliation, again, people stood up and shared their stories, and they had people stand up and witness. So now those people are forever connected. And it's about moving forward collectively to change and reshape our relationship together. And we can't do that. We can't do that as Indigenous people alone. I can't do that by myself. We need this kind of shared partnership. People who believe in this stuff. People who see that there's a connection to be made. See themselves in this. And so that's, again, what the collective is about. And we're small, but we're mighty. And the work that we've been privileged to go and witness in Chile, they have a beautiful ruca that you'll see pictures of here that Pedro will speak to. They're doing that work there. They're in the University of Chile where they have their own colonial system. And again, Pedro will speak to that. But they are pushing forward and trying to get that recognition that's so needed, so deserved. When about, I don't know, Paul, how long it's been, maybe a good 10 years. I've been at VIU for 10 years. So maybe 8 or 9 years ago, I was having a particularly bad day here, and somebody, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was that Western feeling invisible, feeling, what am I doing here? What am I doing in this place? And there was I went back to my office, and there was a sheet on the PLAR conference, Recognizing Indigenous Knowledge in the Academy, that Loyalist College back east and First Nations Technology Institute were partnering to speak to. And I saw it, and I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. This is what we need. And, and so I couldn't make that particular conference. It was in May, because I was committed to another conference at Queen's. But when I was at Queen's, at this university, at this other conference, I sat beside a table like this with these Indigenous women, and I, struck up a conversation, and they said, one of them worked in Mohawk Territory, where FNTI is, Janet's. And I said, oh, I just saw this conference, and I really, I wanted to be there. And she goes, oh, you got to go. I've done PLAR. You got to speak to Paul. You got to phone Paul. He's the greatest, and all of those things. And so it was just, again, how you put those things out. And then I sat beside these women. And so I phoned Paul. I came back home, and I phoned Paul. And I think we probably talked Paul talks a lot, so I think we probably talked a good couple hours. And we made this connection. And Paul, again, believes in this. He sees this. He sees this in all learners, is their need to bring their full selves into the institution, and the institution to accept that. And so Paul has been guiding us in this work here at VIU, as has Pedro and the collective. We have taken it, again, as Janet said, through the support of our elders, and that's what I encourage all of you to do if you go back to your respective places, is to find what this looks like, what your canoe looks like from your traditions, to, again, support. It needs to be contextualized, right? Indigenous knowledge is contextualized, because as you'll understand today, it comes from the land. And so when you go home, you will hopefully find your canoe in place. And I also want to, there was another model that I know Paul supported up north, where they did the igloo of life. And so they did a similar model to build a portfolio. So with that, again, thank you for being here. And it's a great honor for me to introduce my friend, Paul Zakos. Oh, sorry, my other friend, Pedro, who's going next, to share with all of you. Thank you.